Most of you know our speaker today. Sure, some of you know Mike's stories will unfold later as he talks today. Mike is a family man who was a wanderer in his 20s and 30s. He worked in schools, restaurants, factories, landscaping, construction, and treatment center for youth and teachers in English and Brazil. Got married, fell into the love of his life, has lived in Middlesex County for the past 30 years, and ended working at a local community service board for prevention specialist, mental health support professional, and then on to his dream job of family advocate and support person for 2 Head Start classrooms in Gloucester County. Mike has a reading for you right now.
The first reading is from Judson Brewer's book, Unwinding Anxiety. I call him Dr. Judd. It's just easier for me to say and remember. So this is at the end of his book. Towards the end of his book, his title is called Evidence. Title of the chapter is called Evidence-Based Faith. If you are like many of the patients and students I've worked with, you might be wondering, am I going to be able to make lasting change? Honestly, it's just a matter of settling in and doing the work. It's like taking a test. If you haven't studied as hard as you think you could or should have, don't worry, just keep studying and you'll get there. These mental skills aren't hard to learn, they just need to be practiced a lot so they become your new habits. Training your mind takes practice. You practice mapping out your habit loops, you practice looking more and more closely at the results of your behavior, you practice writing out those urges to do something so that you can learn to be with whatever thoughts and emotions arise. And with all of this practice, you learn to calibrate your system so that you can clearly recognize the feelings of contraction or constriction that come with itches, urges, and worries, as well as their opposite, the expansion that comes with kindness and curiosity. You learn the difference between external rewards, needing to get something to feel better, and internal rewards, feeling the relief that comes with being curious and kind. Now I'm going to read from a different book, much different nature, but it's related. It's the book, The Wise Heart by Jack Kornfield, who was a Buddhist monk and now is a Buddhist psychologist. This is a quote attributed to Buddha. My friends, it is through the establishment of the lovely clarity of mindfulness that you can let go of grasping after the past, overcome attachment and grief, abandon all clinging and anxiety, and awaken an unshakable freedom of heart, here and now.
Mike Knez has a history of life-disrupting anxiety and was attracted to Judson Brewer's MD, his PhD program called Unwinding Anxiety because of the science-based credentials that he brought. He signed on to a series of online lessons based on the latest neuroscience that would help him retain his brain and diffuse the anxiety-producing thoughts habits. As he got further in the program, the lessons became more about developing mindfulness and awareness and a means to facing his feelings and acceptance and find peace. He was being shown how to become more aware of his thoughts and feelings and more at home in his body. Ultimately, he discovered that Dr. Judd was taking him on a path towards a practice of non-judgmental loving kindness. Thanks. Mike? Okay.
Okay, looks like I've got over a half an hour. I'm gonna set a timer so don't take it all up, okay? So, what is anxiety? MedicinePlus.gov says anxiety is a feeling of fear, dread, and uneasiness. That sounds about right to me. It can range from a nagging feeling of unease to an all-out panic attack. In the Unwinding Anxiety program, we are encouraged to look at where our anxiety comes from and how we might be feeding it or making it worse in our attempts to make ourselves feel better. If we've had anxiety for a long time, we might have started to believe that this is the way I am. We might think that we've coped with it so far, so it's better to let it be. Besides, I don't like thinking about it. Living with anxiety can be similar to hearing that funny noise in our car's engine for such a long time that we don't hear it very much anymore. We may worry about it from time to time, but we've mainly put it out of our minds. When someone points out the noise, we shrug our shoulders and say, it's always been this way. That's the way it was with me. Reluctance to do anything may be grounded in believing that we can't do anything about it. And this belief can leave us pretty hopeless. Dr. Judd and other practitioners have demonstrated that when we learn how our minds work, we can apply that knowledge to begin to quiet our noisy engines. We can let go of old habits and develop new habits, new healthier thoughts and behavior patterns when it comes to facing our fearfulness. The goal over time is that we develop our own embodied wisdom and use our natural curiosity and loving nature to become master mechanics of our mind. The key that was a revelation to me is that our anxious thoughts and accompanied body reactions, you know what I said, are habits. How our brains work is a result of our evolution. Habits, including thought habits, are a good thing. They have helped our ancestors and us survive. We developed them for a positive purpose. Sometimes, however, they can begin to control us. That's where knowledge and mindfulness can help. Dr. Judd is an addiction specialist. He deals with alcoholism, smoking, which he says is the hardest addiction to give up. And then he's also developed a program for eating and then anxiety. So he knows of what he speaks. You can look up some of his videos on YouTube. There's one on 60 Minutes in which he connects the newscaster, I can't remember his name, he's on CNN, with all these electrodes on his head. He's been at a mindfulness retreat, and he's been learning meditation. So they hook them all up, and then Dr. Judd asked him, now, we're going to see on the screen, you have all this blue. If you see red, that's because your brain is being activated in the center of your brain that deals with anxiety. When your thoughts are occupied, this part turns red. So he asked him to think of something anxiety producing, and all of a sudden, it turns red on the graph, and he says, now drop into meditation, and it turns blue. So he's done this experiment and many others to try to map the brain and where in our brain anxiety is centered and what parts of our brains are elicited when we can have a relief of that anxiety. So that was a little bit of a side track here, but I wanted to explain that to you before we got into it. So let's focus specifically on how habits around anxiety are formed. First, something happens in your life. It could be good or bad. It's called a trigger because it triggers a reaction in us. For example, we hear a text alert, so we check our phones. We open the cute cat video someone shared with us on our phone, and it gives us a good laugh. Our brain says, oh, that feels good. So our brain now associates that behavior with feeling good. The next time we hear that alert, our brain is triggered. We might think, I could use a laugh right now. So we check our phones again. After many times, this gets laid down as a habit. We have a trigger, the alert, behavior, the opening of the video, and the reward, feeling of laughter. Now, this is an example of positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement is an example of operant conditioning or rewards-based learning. Rewards-based learning. Now, this also works for negative emotions. Let's say that we realize how far behind we are on our to-do list. Let's say that we're working on a talk that we're going to be giving at church. And we begin to feel so uncomfortable with our anxiety that we decide we need a break. Triggered by our distressing thoughts, we remember the funny cat videos. So we go to our phones, or maybe we go to the fridge, or maybe we do both. And we watch one, and then another, and then another. So we have learned that this helps us feel better, temporarily. This lays down a memory that if we're stressed or anxious, we can distract ourselves with our phones and feel better, if only for a while. The more often we do this, the more this too becomes a habit. We have a trigger, the anxiety is triggered. We have the behavior, checking our phones, and then we have the reward, a temporary relief. This is called negative reinforcement. The negative feeling is reduced by the cat video. That is the reward. We reduce the negative feeling, the uncomfortable feeling. After many times, this too becomes habitual. You can apply it to many, many facets of our life. Addiction. I don't know how many of us have said, I've gotten addicted to this phone, or I've gotten addicted to this game, or I've gotten addicted to this television show, or whatever it may be. That's how it works. That's not all bad. Now, we can have stress and anxiety that this seems to trigger more anxiety. It starts to feed on itself. And this might become its own type of habit loop. For example, we think of all the things we have to do today. Then we start to worry that we can't possibly get everything done. And then those stressful thoughts trigger more stressful thoughts. Like, why did I spend so much time watching cat videos? And so on and so on. It can go down a long spiraling train of thoughts where you don't even remember where you started. That's not much of a reward, is it? No. But somehow or another, it started out as helping us feel better. What's tricky now is also that the more we get caught up in these behaviors, the more automatic they become. They become so habituated that we're not even consciously choosing these actions anymore. It's like being on an autopilot. We're not driving our car anymore. So the first step in tracking this problem is to recognize when we're caught up in anxiety. Oftentimes we just want to push it aside and push through it. It becomes so normal that we're not even know what state of mind we're in. But with awareness, we can step out of the cycle and we can put ourselves back in the driver's seat. Now, spiraling out of control worry can be overwhelming. My brother just told me about that he was having this the other day on the phone, and I recommended Unwinding Anxiety app. So above all, what I want to tell you is, because we can feel that it's our fault, but it's not our fault. None of it is. It's the way that our brains are made to work. We learn based upon positive results of our actions. Forming habits is a necessary shortcut to decision making. Without it, our brains would be overwhelmed. We wouldn't be able to do simple things. Everything we would have to be thinking out and making a decision. It's just that sometimes habit forming process sets us up to habituate to ultimately harmful behaviors. If they have triggered, if they have lingered on their, I got the wrong glasses today. So I'm like, what focus am I in here? If they have lingered on past their usefulness, instead of beating ourselves up for their continued presence, we can instead offer ourselves compassion. Doing so, we will be ever better able to let go of these feelings. The more we resist letting go of our self-judgment, and the better able we will be able to let go of them. The more, I believe that the hardest work that we have in achieving a sense of peace is letting go of our self-judgment. In the program, you come to understand that quick fixes to anxiety are just that, quick. They don't address the core of our anxiety, and they ultimately don't work. We can start changing the hierarchy of our needs in our brains through a conscious embodiment of awareness of what these habits are doing for us and to us, and then substituting a new habit that provides a positive relief. We need to become disenchanted with our old ways of feeling by recognizing that they don't serve us anymore. This can be painful. It may sound paradoxical, but we are really attached to our anxiety. We believe that we need it to get more done or to become better people. I used to think that my anxiety served me as a motivator. What I realized, it serves me as a procrastinator. So in order to avoid the intense anxiety of having to get something done that's unpleasant or hard, or I'm worried about the outcome, I put it off. I put it off. I'm not alone. And we do this with a lot of things. We put them off rather than face them because our feelings about them are difficult to face. We can retrain our brains using healthy rewards that will reinforce behaviors that will address our needs and face our feelings. To continue with the car analogy, we start feeding our engines a better grade of fuel and tinker with the engine to improve the performance of our vehicles. Doing that with mindfulness training was the vocation of John Kabat-Zinn. He was one of the first Westerners to study the therapeutic benefits of mindfulness. He says that mindfulness is paying attention in a particular way on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. For some reason, my mouth keeps getting dry. Being non-judgmental is essential to the success of retraining our brains. My first exposure to mindfulness was from the author of The Wise Heart, Jack Kornfield. He called mindfulness loving awareness. It is a way of developing a more forgiving, kind, and loving, curious way of being in the world. Think about it. Isn't being curious, paying attention, and being kind more appealing than being fearful, angry, or resentful? Our brains are wired to make ourselves feel better. We can use this to help retrain our brains. We can begin to use the expansive feelings of curiosity and loving kindness as rewards when we face and then write out our feelings of anxiety and the associated feelings related to fear. These positive intrinsic rewards are not dependent on exterior factors like safety, recognition, approval, or pleasure. Of course, safety trumps everything. And that might be the way how we develop some of these not so healthy habits. Now I'm going to show you a bit of how this program works by going through some of these activities. They are designed to get ourselves out of our heads that are often lost in thoughts dealing with the past or the future. They are used to bring us in touch with what is going on in our bodies in the present moment. When we do these exercises, often we first recognize the anxiety, and we might ask what the trigger is. Then we go to the next step of accepting the anxiety, non-judgmentally, that this is how my brain works. It's not my fault. Then we investigate the feeling that's causing us discomfort. And as we investigate it, we nurture those expansive feelings that reward us for this investigation, such as being curious, or, which is a hard thing for me, our loving kindness. Doing a meditation on loving kindness, or connecting to the world around us. So these activities are all short. Dr. Judd says we learn our habits through many repetitions for short periods of time. Everything, we develop a habit through repetition. He was a devoted meditation student. He did it for 8 years because he started feeling extreme anxiety. He realized he had extreme anxiety in medical school, and he started mindfulness training there. And then after 8 years, after he finished got his medical degree, he decided, I'm going to become a neuroscientist and study. Well, actually, I'm getting the history a little wrong. But anyway, after 8 years of meditation, and he was going to be a chemical microchemist, and he decided to change his vocation to a neuroscience, studying addiction. And then he became a psychiatrist because he wanted to help people who suffered from anxiety. So he described himself as a type A personality. And if you read his book, you'll understand that one anecdote, he said that he would run through the campus at school because he was part of the running club. He was part of the biking, downhill biking, and he was he was co-chair of the musical ensemble, and he was taking all kinds of extra classes. And he said he was running through school, the campus, and he'd have to look to see where their bathrooms were. He mapped out all the bathrooms because he constantly had diarrhea. And he went to the doctor on campus and said, he did research, and he says, I've got this bacterial infection, I need an antibiotic. And the doctor said, no, you have anxiety. He said, no, not me. And he didn't realize it until they got into med school, and he said, yeah, this is what's going on. So that's that's how he knows what he's talking about as far as what anxiety is. Anyway, how much time? I got plenty of time here. So let's all sit comfortably in your seats. Put your feet on the floor. You can keep your eyes open, or you can keep them. You can shut them. It doesn't matter. Now just take a breath, just a natural breath, a deep breath, but just a natural. Don't try to hyperventilate or anything. Just now feel the air going in and out of your lungs. Now, see if you can search for any anxiety you might be feeling, any unease. Nothing major. You know, you might be hungry, you might be ready to go get some food. Feel that anxiety in your body. Where is it centered in your body? Is it in your stomach? Is it in your chest? Is it in your shoulders, your neck? Is it in your throat? What does it feel like? Is it sharp? Is it dull? Is it just persistent? What side of your body is it strongest on? Your left side or your right side? Does it change with your breath? Does it become more intense when you inhale or when you exhale? Okay, now go from that place in your body and go down to your feet. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel your toes. Feel the balls of your feet. Feel the heels. You do them one at a time or both together. Now go up. Feel your ankles. Feel your thighs. Skip the knees. Feel your knees. Feel your body sitting on the chair, on your bottom and on your back. Feel your hands in your lap. Go up and feel your elbows, your shoulders, feel your neck, back of your neck. Feel your throat, your chin, your lips, your tongue, your nose, your cheeks, your brow. Feel your ears. Feel the back of your head. Feel the top of your head. Now take a deep breath. Let it out. Now, put a big smile on your face. Open your eyes wide and look around you at all the smiling people. One of my favorite exercises when I'm feeling anxious is to go to a window or go outside and look at the leaves, the trees. Look at the motion, not focusing on the motion, not thinking about the motion. Of course, you're going to think. Jack Kornfield says our thoughts are like saliva. Our body secretes them. But you can You don't have to be, you can be thinking about what you're doing. Just, you can be focusing on the movement without analyzing it. For me, when I first did it, when I was in that really just wrapped up in anxiety, I was really wound up. I did that exercise for the first time, and it was like something just switched off in my brain. And it gave me hope. It said, oh, wow, it's been a long time since I experienced anything that expansive. So you just find those exercises that work for you, look online. This program, it's like 5 weeks of 7 lessons a week. And then you have bonus weeks, all this kind of stuff. But you don't need to, and this costs you money, of course. It costs money to produce it. But you can go online and get the first week free, or the first 5 days free. I did those first 5 days for like a month before I shelled out my money. And every time I did it, I didn't need to buy into it because I was buying into what he was teaching me. And every time I did it, I learned something. Because it just helps you to practice. It prompts you with a practice. So I'm not selling the program. If you want to mention my name when you 10% discount, right? Anyway, that's, I'll end it there.
Thank you so much. I love that talk. Okay, good. Jack Kornfield's book is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Yes, and I wanted to add 2 other things that are kind of quick and free.
Please.
Quick and free. Insight Timer is a meditation app that I use almost every night before I go to sleep, and they'll talk you through very similar things to what you did, as well as, gosh, there's thousands of other things.
Yeah.
And similar to the watching the trees, if you're not by a window or if the trees aren't moving, do the trees ever stop moving?
They don't move, then you just look at the stillness.
Right, the stillness. But watching jellyfish is amazing. I'm serious. They're so, it's just so slow. And I think the reason why it's so amazing, as well as the trees, is when we're anxious, our thoughts are moving so quickly and our body is often really tense. And if you're looking at something that's going really slowly, then your brain will hopefully start moving more slowly, and maybe your body can slow down a little bit. So. True.
And when we slow down, we can get things done better
Faster.
and faster, really. When I rush, it's just like a disaster. So if we slow down like the jellyfish, I have to remember that.
And giving, I think of you as one of the kindest people that I know. So I love it that your practice of meditation augments that, because you are a person with great awareness of other people, which is like another meditation practice. You spoke of the connectedness, so I just wanted you to know that. And you know, the talk that you gave reminded me of so much in my own practice and in my own life. And also the music we had earlier from Eric reminded me how music also can figure in other arts, visual arts and music can figure into our, to relieving our anxiety.
Yes.
As we learn not to procrastinate and to use our anxiety productively so that we can, instead of reinforcing avoidance, that we
Exactly.
reinforce getting things done and also pacing ourselves. But thank you.
And toning down the anxiety can help it be a genuine motivator than something that's a negative in our life, keeping us from experiencing our true selves sometimes.
What I've learned over the last 10 years is that when you cultivate compassion for yourself and you show yourself the kind of kindness and loving kindness and the positive affirmations and all that stuff that you would normally do for a good friend, and it becomes second nature to do that for yourself, it can't help but have it spill out onto the world around you. So, you know, they always say that you have to start within, and it's true. You have to address what's going on inside of you and your feelings about yourself and your compassion for not, you know, it's okay that we don't get everything done. It's okay that we're just here to live. We're just here to breathe and to be, and then everything else is cake, right? So if you can look at it from that perspective, then when people around us don't get everything done, it's okay. You know, they're here to live, they're here to breathe, and everything else is cake, right? So that little breath to remind us of that is so important. Thank you for doing that for us today.
That was great, Mike. Really good. I have a granddaughter who has anxiety and will read and do the slowly count. And that seems to help. But I've noticed that lots of kids have that nowadays. It's really worrying. So this is good to know. I will practice some of these things that you mentioned with her.
Yeah, check out the first 4 or 5 lessons. It gives you a lot of little practical ideas that you can do with your niece. It's the thing about unwinding anxiety that really is different than anything I've read. It's a method to learn this step by step, rather than just reading a book and say, okay, I know it, I can understand this. But we can't think our ways out of the problem. And I just want to say, when I say we, I don't mean, if you don't include yourself in that we, that's fine. I don't want to say, I don't want to you, like, you know, this is what you feel, this is what you need to do. But having said that, I think we do have a universal nature. We all deal with rewards-based learning. That's how our brains actually function. And so what he's done, he's used that rewards-based learning to try to hack our brains and retrain it. And what he found was, and I think I got off on, lost this tangent, but he was a long-time meditator. He would meditate for long periods of time. He'd join on retreats and stuff. And when he got into the laboratory, he wanted to show that this type of meditation was really effective in changing our brains. And it is effective. But what he found was, short-term, many times throughout the day, is more effective in changing the way we actually behave, because he believes, and I believe, that it's the way our brains work. We don't read something, intellectualize it, and then we do it. We do it like we learn tennis, like we learn any skill. We do it through practice and repetition.
We rewire.
Exactly what you're doing. You can't delete anything from our brains, but we can program over it. Look at Microsoft. That's the same program that they started back in the 80s. They just put layers and layers and layers and layers on top of it, which is kind of how our brain is structured through evolution too.
I have a, okay.
It's okay.
Okay, so I suggest that we put Eva's app and this program and any other apps you have maybe in our connections this week, that would be helpful to have, so we'll try to remember later and forget what it was. My other comment is that so much of addiction is trying to, well, in my opinion, manage people's anxiety and depression, their feelings, and they're just trying to escape that some way. And so it starts off with one thing, and then that's enough, and then kind of plateaus, and then it might escalate to something else and more. So I'm very interested in teaching children how different tools to manage their anxiety. So, so I'll just share quickly. I like puppets. I like lots of tools, but puppets, kids can relate to the puppet and take that as their teacher sometimes. So I have the puppets that you've seen here. You'll see them again next week when the kids do a quick story with their puppets that they've been working on about bullying. But I also, and I'm putting this out there because you all know a lot of people, and I bought a puppet troupe that's not like our puppets here. This is like, wow. Like, these used to be on television. They were on TV shows. They, so if, it is a goal of mine to do in the future, not now, maybe a couple of years from now. But if anybody knows anybody that knows how to do sound and sound effects, and these puppets have been on the road. They've gone off to festivals and school, you know, you used to have school assemblies and everybody comes in and watches it. And so my goal, one of them, is for the puppets to teach tools for anxiety. Like, we have a test coming up. I gotta breathe. No, wait. Gotta slow down and breathe before the test. So just little quick tools. So if anybody knows anybody that's into media and lighting and any of that, I have a whole shed full of magic. And one more thing. So Colin, when he was 5, he knows what a frog is. We've collected frog, we looked for a frog, he knows. But we listened when he was going to sleep, the song Rainbow Connection with Kermit singing it.
Yeah.
We were cuddled up and listening to that before he drifted off to sleep. And at the very end, he looked at me and he said, "Is he real?"
Oh.
Now, he knows that he's not a real frog, but in that moment, he was with the frog, right? Like, that was a connection. And that's what I think these puppets can do. So I'm just putting it, you should know somebody in the future. We're ready to roll.
Okay.
I actually think Kermit is real.
Well,
So as I extinguish this candle, with all the wars that are going on and all the anxiety in the world, may there peace be in our heart, may we be at ease, and we be filled with love.
Okay, so let's do a little meditation here. May we all be held in compassion. May we hold each other in compassion. May we hold the people we love and worry about in compassion. May we hold those that we sometimes wish ill on, compassion. And may we hold ourselves in compassion. May we be at peace.
So may it be.